Greetings everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm your host Captain Rye and today's YouTube video comes from Burnt Out Koalas. Koalas is in the Tier 3 US destroyer, the Wickes, here in World of Warships. This map, I don't remember the name of it, is one of the ones that you find very early on at the low tiers, and it's a domination map mode. Now, you will have to bear with us a little bit as Koalas does not use the shift key to zoom in and out, so there's going to be some constant slow zooms here. As the battle gets underway, he comes down here to the sea cap point, and he gets torpedoes away at the enemy cruiser that was, well, sailing in a nice straight line. The Wickes, for an early American destroyer, has some pretty good advantages, namely that it has torpedoes on both sides of the ship. Now, these torpedoes are short range, but that means you can run up to an enemy, fire off a set of torpedoes, turn the ship hard, and fire off the torpedoes on the other side, and cause some serious problems. Koalas manages to secure a first blood in the battle by nailing the enemy ship, the enemy cruiser that was back over there, but it was actually a second enemy cruiser that he nailed, and not the original one that he was shooting at. And now, again, the advantage to having torpedoes on both sides of the ship as he fires off the torpedoes from the other side of his ship, as an enemy destroyer, a German one, comes around the headland of that island into his smokescreen to cause him problems. Now, Koalas is firing off his torpedoes here, when in reality, he should have just been using his guns, as you can see there. He could have finished off that destroyer much sooner, just wrecking him with guns alone. Enemy team has managed to kill 3 of his team's ships, and because they've secured the B cap point, this puts them up on points for the time being. Now, Koalas gets himself turned back around and back into the C cap point so he can begin capping here. And the friendly ships up there, the cruiser, does manage to secure a kill there and equals out the teams a little bit. But of course, the enemy team has the destroyer advantage, having 3 destroyers still in the game. And while they may be low-tier destroyers, anytime you have 3 destroyers or a destroyer advantage, it can cause some problems because people often tend not to pay attention to destroyers and their locations. His team manages to secure the C cap point as he's looking at the enemy team that's up in the B location. And again, I do apologize for the camera here, the zooming in, the zooming out, as well as the water clipping issue. This seems to be an issue with a lot of replays that I am having recently. His team is focusing down this enemy destroyer, and that's a very good thing to do, as any enemy destroyer can be a serious problem. And if they can take him out, they can at the very least reduce the number of enemy destroyers down to effectively 1. And that destroyer is very low health. The question is who's going to get the kill. Yep, it looks like that went to one of the cruisers and not Koalas. His team has managed to gain the destroyer advantage, but again, these are low-tier destroyers, and the Wickes has a slightly large detection range down at Tier 3. At least, it's not capable of stealth-firing torpedoes. His team is in the process of capping the B cap point, and that's going to help get them the points lead. Again, a very important aspect that at low tiers a lot of players don't seem to realize. You know, capping does win games. He tries to push up here into the smoke screen, but the smoke screen dissipates as he gets there. He gets shots out with his torpedoes from the ships that are behind that island there. And he's just kind of sitting here while he contemplates his next move. His team manages to secure the B cap point, and this is going to hopefully give them the opportunity to gain points. He fires off torpedoes at a battleship off in the distance here who's slowly moving. I'm sorry, that's a cruiser off in the distance here who's slowly moving his direction. And if that cruiser continues, and it looks like he's definitely tunnel visioning hardcore here, he's just going to sail right into those torpedoes. And yep, sure enough, sails right into them, and Koalas secures his second kill in the game. Or, I'm sorry, his third kill in the game, because he killed that destroyer. So now his team has got the ship's lead here, and there is another cruiser off in the distance. Now that cruiser is sailing away, so it's going to be a little bit difficult for the Wickes guns to hit him. The Wickes, unlike the Clemson at Tier 4, which they're basically the same ships, has the disadvantage of only having 3 guns total that you can use. 1 forward, 1 aft, and 1 on each side. He fires off torpedoes here at this destroyer, this other enemy Wickes here, and again, they're wasting your torpedoes trying to torpedo a destroyer at this kind of range when you should just be using your guns to ruin his day. Not giving quite enough lead here with your shots as he fails to secure the kill on him. When dealing with something fast, you got to remember to point the shots forward of the bow in order to guarantee your hits. And you also have to remember that there is such a thing as damage saturation. So if you've caused too much damage to the enemy ship, either on their bow, on their superstructure, or on their stern, your shots are going to hit and not actually do any damage. Enemy battleship up here comes around the headland of that island, and Koalas is maneuvering hard as he does get hit with some shots from that battleship. He fires off torpedoes from one side headed his direction, and he gets his ship turned the other way and fires off on the other side. Now the question is this battleship going to just let Koala's torpedoes hit him? And it looks like the answer to that is yes. So Koalas manages to hit him and secures himself a Confederate in the process. Not an easy task to do down low tiers, unless you are either really lucky or really good. He manages to set that battleship on fire, and that fire is going to burn for a while. His second set of torpedoes are just about to hit. Come on, he does manage to hit it, but doesn't cause any flooding. Really disappointing there. Earns himself a high caliber in the process and secures that battleship kill through flooding and not actually fire, because the battleship player apparently did not have his damage repair ability available, or simply forgot to use it. Enemy team no longer has any caps, or I should say, they're being contested at the only cap they have left. Now, if they can kill the ship that's up in that cap, they can start regaining those points. But as it is now, that's going to give Koala's team even more advantage. He fires off his torpedoes at this battleship really, really early. And I'm not even entirely sure that the torpedoes have the range to reach that battleship. Now, in this particular situation, given this battleship is maneuvering and given that he's now firing at Koalas, I would have actually turned my ship the other direction and immediately gotten the torpedoes off on the other side. Takes a big hit there from the battleship, but uses his damage control ability to put the fire out. The battleship gets taken out by a friendly ship. Now, the enemy team has managed to kind of narrow up the teams a little bit, but Koala's team still has the destroyer advantage because they still have Koalas. Although he is very low health, and he's in a destroyer that doesn't have the best detection range. I should also make mention that at the time that he's playing this battle in his Wickes, he has a 1-point captain. That's it. This ship is a 1-point or no point captain on it. So there's no concealment expert, no torpedo reload expert, none of it. Just a stock captain entirely. He gets up here and starts capping the A cap point, but he's detected in the process, and this could be a bit of a problem because he is low health. If those enemy cruisers decide to shoot at him, and they do decide to shoot at him, they're going to reset the cap progress, and they could easily kill him. Now, he performs a maneuver that I perform often, which is popping the smoke screen and then turning away, creating a nice long smoke trail. Now, from here, you can stop, and you can effectively just hide in that smoke screen. Because you've got such a big smoke screen, it's really hard to tell where exactly you're located. He manages to set that St. Louis on fire as he stops and gets himself nicely situated in the process of capping. St. Louis puts out the fire, so any additional fire set at this point will continue to burn. The question is whether or not he's going to be lucky enough to set another fire. But regardless, he's still going to whittle away with those guns. Again, the guns on the ship, not the best, because, of course, you only get 3 of them. He does manage to set that St. Louis on fire as he caps the A cap point, and that's going to provide even more sweet, sweet XP. The St. Louis still burning, but who's going to get the kill on him? It's Koalas, securing himself a Kraken Unleashed. down here at Tier 3. In a Tier 3 maximum battle, and there's one ship left on the enemy team, and his team has 4 ships. Now that ship hiding off in the corner, and at this point Koalas has done more than enough in this battle. He can really just sit behind this island and not risk it. Really, honestly, at this point, just stay where you're at, stay behind the island. If you've got low health, there's absolutely no point to try and YOLO rush somebody for that extra damage if you don't feel like it. But of course, if you do feel like it, you can totally get away with it and feel pretty confident in your team's ability to secure victory. His smokescreen starts to dissipate here as he's using this island for relative cover. Now, when I say relative cover, he's still able to shoot over the island, and he's moving slowly in order to keep this cruiser in sight. But that cruiser is sailing out from behind the protection of the island, while Koalas is angled in a position where he can just sail behind that island for protection, meaning that cruiser is going to have a hard time hitting him if that cruiser decides he wants to shoot at him. But that cruiser looks like he's busier doing other things. Now, again, going back to the guns on the Wickes, kind of failing here. All 3 of these shots, the dispersion on them, not the best, so they're kind of falling all around this ship and not hitting as reliably as possible. On the Clemson at Tier 4, though, you get the same number of guns, except you can upgrade them and get double mounted, so at the very least you can have 6 guns per side in 3 turrets. He does manage to set that cruiser on fire, and because that cruiser was already on fire earlier, that fire is actually going to burn for a little bit. And of course that cruiser taking hit after hit after hit from Koala's team back there. Very low health. Can Koala secure a 6th kill in this game? Wouldn't that be something down at Tier 3? Doesn't quite manage to do it though. A little unfortunate, but he got pretty close. In fact, he did 81,000 damage in a Tier 3 ship. Yes, a destroyer, a US destroyer with US destroyer torpedoes. 81,000 damage. Confederate First Blood Kraken unleashed 2 devastating strikes and high caliber to go with it. And of course, that is going to put him at the top of his team for XP earned. And that is a big deal here. He scored 1,600 base XP in a Tier 3 battle. That is not something that people can regularly do. In fact, I think the average at Tier 3 is something like 600 base XP. As you can see, the next nearest player on his team is almost 800 points below him. Anyway, that's it for today's video. If you liked the video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment down below. If you'd like to get semi-regular channel news and updates, you can do so by liking and following me on Facebook. If you'd like to help support me in the channel, you can do so by becoming my supporter on Patreon. If you've got a replay like this one that you'd like to see featured on my channel, you can send it to my email. And if you'd like to watch me play World of Warships, among other games, live, Sundays, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, or Pacific Daylight Time, you can do so by following me on Twitch. Although, I may opt to change that back to YouTube streaming, just because I don't seem to get much of an audience on Twitch. You can find the links for all of those in the video description down below. And as always, I will see you next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.